Welcome everyone. I am Pragya Sinha Chaudhary and I head products at DASA. Thank you all for joining the webinar. Today we will be talking about a new product suite from DASA, that is SRE Next Gen. This suite has taken a form after much research, discussions with several experts, and gathering feedback. So, to talk about this much needed topic and how we plan to build skill and enablement, I have with me today Rajesh Dutt, Joseph Mooley, and Rick Farnhorst. Rajesh comes with nearly 15 years of experience in IT, specializing in reliability, observability, and platform engineering. For the past 2 years, he has been helping Zebia clients build resilient platforms and address complex reliability challenges across diverse IT domains. Additionally, Rajesh is an experienced SRE trainer, sharing his expertise to empower teams with site reliability engineering best practices. He lives in the Netherlands with his family. Joseph, like Rajesh, is also enabling clients, Zebia clients, solve complex reliability challenges. He's a storyteller, and technology is the core of all his stories that he shares. He is driven by the fact that enhancing productivity is a contributing factor to better collaboration and therefore software resilience. He enjoys actively engaging with software teams and management, shortening feedback loops, building processes and tools to support engagement and reduce friction. And Rick, of course, is the force behind DASA. His passion to enable organizations become high performance digital organizations shows in everything he does and in his guidance in shaping the DASA portfolio. You all will hear from them today and know about the SRE Next Gen product suite. However, before we move on, some housekeeping items. For everyone who has registered for the webinars, the recordings will be made available. During the webinar, please use the comment section to ask questions. We will answer all questions after the speakers have finished. For any additional questions, queries, please write to info@dasa.org or visit our website. Now, I would like to invite Rick to share why we are also excited with the design and development and releasing of our SRE Next Gen product suite and why this is so important and valuable for enterprises across the globe. Rick,
Yes,
off to you.
thanks, Pragya, and thanks all of you for tuning into this session. I'm very excited indeed because this topic is really important for many enterprises, I would say. And let's dive in by explaining why that is. Software systems, IT infrastructure, landscapes are typically complex and growing to be more and more complex. They cause a lot of headaches for both business and IT leaders. We all know that software is eating the world, so the importance of reliable software and infrastructure grows every day. And this topic, in a way, has been highlighted by DASA since we started in 2016 and is addressed partially by key principles and practices around DevOps. But there's a lot more about reliability that needs attention. The concept of SRE in itself is more than 2 decades old, but we still see many organizations struggle with dealing with reliability of software and infrastructure, especially at scale. And this prompted us to dig into this discipline further and deciding what guidance, what solutions we as DASA best could provide to help all those leaders. And what we always do at DASA before we design and build new products is we carefully explore what are the world problems worth solving in the first place. So when we began exploring this space of reliability, we started by asking ourselves some critical questions that need answering, such as how do you define reliability for increasingly complex systems? Or how do you ensure resilience in the face of unpredictable events? Or how do you maintain scalability of your infrastructure with sustainability and regulatory perspectives in mind? How to deal with all kinds of cloud native practices, multi cloud environments, hybrid clouds, etc. Or how do you address reliability in an AI from an AI perspective? Unfortunately, software systems infrastructure is not always as reliable as we want them to be, and this is getting increasingly important. There are many challenges enterprises face, and we did more research and asked enterprise leaders and our community of experts worldwide what they consider key challenges organizations nowadays face with respect to reliability. And we here on this slide summarize some of the key challenges that we identified. First of all, you see it's on the left, bottom left here on the slide, that there's an increasingly complex technological landscape in many enterprises, and you need to adapt to that. You need to understand the complexities. For example, more and more open source projects are being used, and it's not always clear what the impact on future reliability is if you are not sure whether those open source projects will be supported. And it's also hard to keep up with all the various different stacks that you could invest in and your teams have been involved in. It's also important, and that's the second challenge, that there's an increasing skill gap because of this increasing technology advancement. You need to, as engineers, train yourself, upgrade your knowledge and skills. And it's also important to fully be up to date on everything that automation, AI, advanced cloud architectures can benefit to your organization, and how best to leverage all these things. And next to this, another challenge is typically that leadership alignment needs to take place, not just from a technology dimension, but also culturally and operational. Because to be able to build the right capabilities, you need organizational support and smart collaboration between various disciplines and departments. And typically, this is a leadership perspective and topic to cover. We all know as users and as consumers that AI is changing the world. We're still figuring out on an enterprise level in what way will it disrupt everything. The impact AI has on reliability and expectations on reliability and how to manage this best is another challenge that has been identified by many people we surveyed. Another topic is about the fact that you need to ensure automation in your infrastructure stack, but also the self-healing systems, the self-healing characteristics, and effective observability so that you know what is happening and that you can also not just um, keep this in the hands of one site reliability engineer, but also involve the developers, engage with them, and make sure that they have an opportunity um, to build this observability skills in their daily work. Then there are two more challenges worth mentioning. There's a lot of advancement in technology and tools and automation. It brings all kinds of costs that you need to balance. And there's a lot of technology evolving, but how to, not just in a financial perspective, but also environmental, regulatory way, what kind of decisions would you make? And that also links to the sustainability angle. We all know that organizations are striving to become more aware and more in line with sustainability goals. And of course, their infrastructure investments and how to deal with that in a balanced way is an important headache for many leaders. So these are all perspectives that you need to take into account. So these are typical challenges. If we go to the next slide, I have to be honest, we found out that traditional SRE strategies seem to fall a bit short. The concept has been around for two decades, a little bit more than that even, but we see outages happening left, right, and center, and it costs billions for businesses every year. Can you imagine? And maybe this is a good reality check. Did you know that the downtime costs almost 6,000 K per minute for a typical enterprise? That means 300,000 US dollars per hour. And who can afford this? It's really huge. And the typical or the average outage lasts almost 2 hours. And so this is a huge cost on your balance. And there are all kinds of things happening like data breaches and other things that impact reliability and consistency and continuity of your infrastructure. And this costs organizations a lot. So the impacts are huge, but we have seen that traditional SRE principles and practices are not able to keeping pace with the growing complexity of your systems, let alone the other challenges that I just summarized. So something is needed and quickly also. On the next slide, we see that this is further indicated by the fact that, well, the complexity leads to more and more problems in many enterprises. This is just one data point about data compromises per year, and it's not slowing down. It's actually increasing. So falling behind now as an enterprise means that you will face even steeper challenges in the future if you don't watch out, further emphasizing the urgency to do something about it. So as we will see on the next slide, your approach to reliability of infrastructure and software needs a next gen approach, and it does need it right now. I here try to summarize from three perspectives why this is the case. First of all, from the market demand perspective, it's not so strange to understand that the need for reliability of software and infrastructure has further increased over the years, and it will continue to increase. We live in a digital first world, 24/7. We have shifted to more and more digital environments, and we also have committed to net zero or close to net zero objectives as enterprises. So we also add sustainability objectives to the mix. So this is a quite complex problem, and the market demands us to deal with this. Another perspective or reason for treating reliability as a first-class citizen is the revenue implications, of which I just gave an example on the previous slide. But please take in mind that 88% of the customers will also stop doing business with you just after one bad experience. And this is not just something that DASA says. All these data points come from reports and facts found by leading industry organizations and firms such as Gartner, IBM, BCG. So it is confirmed that this is really an issue. And you see also that companies with higher reliability experiences, they do find that they have much higher market capitalization. So it does pay off to invest in a comprehensive reliability approach. And last but not least, from a technological perspective, the complexity has been increased. Most of you are aware that with all the various cloud computing and platform engineering initiatives, we have now all kinds of modern solutions moving from on-prem to multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. I already mentioned open source. And this is increasingly difficult to keep track of, and it does require a very holistic and comprehensive take on reliability. So on the next slide, I'd like you to imagine a perfect reliability scenario. So if you're an enterprise leader, for example, in the ideal world, you would have a solution, a comprehensive solution that would deliver to you and your organization reliability, but also scalability and sustainability while being closely aligned with your business objectives. And that solution or set of solutions would help you in all kinds of ways. It would cover how to deal with emerging technologies such as AI, for example, to meet modern challenges. It would also help you with implementing the right capabilities. So not just skill building. It will help you by providing actionable tools and resources to know what to build when, where to start, etc. It would also help you identify where are your weak spots, what is your current status quo and maturity when it comes to reliability, for example, by providing comprehensive assessments. It would also provide you with a structured approach how to manage costs and how to optimize costs in your whole IT infrastructure stack. And last but not least, it would also empower yourself and your fellow leaders to adopt next generation SRE capabilities by aligning to business and engineering goals. So this is of course a perfect scenario, but it's good to keep that in mind because for that to happen, I think you need two main things. On the one hand, you need to build in your organization the skill sets, mindset, and the behavior so that people know what to do and are able to do that. But you also need to invest in bridging the gap between all those skill building and inspiration and knowledge building and the actual action and building the right capabilities. And this is very important to realize. And this is also, unfortunately, where all existing approaches fall short because it's very hard to find uh, at the moment a solution that covers all the boxes basically, and that we will see on the next slide because we have looked around, of course, as DASA, and we imagined if we were one of those enterprise leaders. Next slide, please. What are then your options to date? You could, of course, invest in training, and there are some SRE trainings available. It would cost you something, but not extreme high cost. It would not be that scalable, and it would not include a lot of the additional elements like sustainability practices, the treatment of governance frameworks, or the support you would need to actually implement the right capabilities. You could also resort as an alternative to hiring consultants. I've been a consultant myself, and it's uh, definitely valuable, but it would not help you to build the capabilities yourself. And to get started, it will also incur quite a high cost, those custom solutions. And quite a lot of the other aspects, as you will see the table, are not always automatically included. It's also not super scalable because you need more consultants to reach more teams and experts, and it's also not in itself a perfect solution, I would say. And of course, you can opt for doing it yourself, an internal DIY approach, which, as you can see in this table, is not ideal either, because you do typically need to build a lot of in-house expertise before you can scale this effectively. And this brings me to the excitement, what I alluded to earlier, the next slide, because, and that might sound not super modest perhaps, but the reason I'm so excited is that DASA's SRE Next Gen product suite actually is your ticket to the perfect scenario, because we did make sure that it covers all the boxes that I talked about. And before I dive into the details of that product suite, allow me to quickly say a little bit how this product suite fits into the overall portfolio of DASA. For those of you who are new to DASA, we are an industry body. We focus on helping enterprises with their transformation journeys to become a high-performance digital organization. It's a long sentence, and that also means that there's a lot of things that you need to do to arrive there. In those transformation themes that we have identified and are listed on this slide, we highlight typical capabilities and themes that you need to invest in to become this high performance digital organization. And there's no typical order. There are all kinds of ways to go about, but sooner or later you would need, from a people process, leadership culture, technology perspective, you need to invest in all these elements. When you consider modernizing IT operations and infrastructure, the theme at the bottom of this set, you can typically start by investing in one or multiple DevOps teams. Um, and it is also very helpful to check into the platform engineering product suite that we have launched last year, because it can help you at scale to build the right internal capabilities from both a leadership and from an engineer perspective. But to be stronger into this whole topic of reliability, SRE Next Gen, as we will see, is another great next step to actually boost the overall maturity in your IT ops domain. And on the next slide, we highlight our DASA mission, and it's important to emphasize this. As an industry body, we want to be the go-to partner for enterprises in their journeys. That means it's their journey, so you have to do the heavy lifting, but we can be very helpful and a companion in this journey. We do this by creating a lot of guidance, a lot of know-how that we capture in all kinds of products, and we have also a powerful global community of experts, of leaders, and partners who can also either help you in the journey or share their stories and learning so that you can stand on the shoulder of giants instead of reinventing the wheel or really starting from scratch. And these are typical ways how you can align and affiliate yourself to DASA and our body of knowledge to find a fast route to success. And this has proven to be quite successful for many organizations already. On the next slide, we see just a few proof points. Probably well-known companies to all of you. I'm very proud to state that this is just a small subset of the organizations who have adopted DASA in one way or the other. Some of them are consulting partners of ours, others are um, enterprise members. All these organizations have found benefit in our body of knowledge and captured in our products, and share and give back in many cases also their learnings to our communities and to our events. And you can be part of that community ecosystem as well if you like. And perhaps doing that from an SRE Next Gen perspective is the way to go. So let's dive into that. On the next slide, I'll summarize how we have seen basically and have defined SRE Next Gen from a DASA perspective as a typical evolution over time from the traditional or old SRE concept, which was valuable when it emerged in 2003 by Google and has helped many organizations. But as we have explained, the typical challenges that are currently faced by enterprise leaders are complex and have added a number of perspectives to the mix that we have found a need to include. So what you see here in a graphical form is from left to right how we have broadened the scope of SRE, and that has resulted in what we call SRE Next Gen. I will not again mention all these words. There's a lot more to tell, but I'm sure that when working with our products, you will quickly get up to speed. Maybe a few things worth mentioning. For example, you see developer first. I think it's important to understand we see one of the next frontiers in SRE is creating developer first systems, resilient, immutable platforms that also empower and inspire developers to take a more active role in building observability into their workflows so that it's not just left to the site reliability engineers to take care of this. So build it in the T-shaped teams, if you will. Another example is the word predictive. Of course, we want to be all AI ready. That means that we also need more predictive observability. And AI solutions and capabilities can, of course, help there, which is really valuable for organization to know what will happen and what you can do about to prevent certain outages. So all of these concepts are added to the previous learnings and practices that the field of SRE already had. And we had the liberty building a new product suite in 2024 and now released in 2025 to make it future fit. So we have added a substantial layer to make the SRE Next Gen solution fit for purpose. And that's why we actually are calling it Next Gen and are convinced that it deserves that label. So on the next slide, we summarize this by phrasing it and defining it in a one sentence. It's what SRE Next Gen actually is. It's a holistic reliability that blends practices like automation, observability, and incident management in the context of technological complexity and impact of AI. And that's a mouthful. We do realize, as you will see, with all the eight circles that are all comprised into this definition, but we believe you can't leave any of those out. You need to include that in a holistic perspective when building SRE capabilities. Technological complexity with the increasing use of microservices, serverless computing, multi-cloud environments, there's a lot to do there. You need to deal with this technological complexity. Sustainability, we mentioned already. A resilient strategy to also focus on how to deal with disaster recovery, release strategies, and how to have minimum impact on users. Observability, I already mentioned before. Ops excellence, and how to deal with the automation of operational processes, how to ensure efficiency, scalability, and high service quality while reducing manual intervention, actually. The organization that you have to build one way or the other, what kind of topology, what kind of setup would you choose in your organization to master and centralize or decentralize SRE capabilities? What kind of culture would you need? How to deal with knowledge exchange, etc., etc. The architecture from a also cloud perspective, what kind of solutions like Kubernetes, containers, microservices, what are the typical criteria the architecture need to focus on? For example, around fault tolerance, seamless integration across environments, etc., etc. And last but not least, AI, but we covered that as well. So all these perspectives need to be included in SRE Next Gen. And because they're all included, I'm very proud that we have a quite holistic product suite for you. And on the next slide, we summarize on a high level what this product suite actually comprises. For those of you new to DASA and DASA products, over the past 2 years, we have released many product suites. And a product suite typically is made up of a combination of both transformation enablers and talent development elements. Because as I said before, we want to be a partner in crime for enterprises in their digital transformation. We believe since our inception in 2016 that a lot of skills and knowledge and mindset needs to be trained. And so we have certification programs. But next to talent development, we also want to help enterprise leaders and professionals to build the right capabilities. That's what we do with a value box. A value box is a construct that contains a number of guidance products. Um, and we will see in a second in more detail what are the value box components of this DASA SRE Next Gen product suite. And Rajesh will, in a minute, talk you through that. And it's very exciting to know that we have a lot of things from guidance paper to a number of workshops that you can leverage in your organization, and also an assessment to actually find out what the maturity is. And next to that, we also have a 2-day certification program, which is containing all kinds of elements. And Joseph will highlight later on also the details of all the modules in that certification program, probably making you excited about that one as well. So together, the Value Box and certification program allow you to build both horizontally and vertically the right expertise and the right capabilities to master reliability at scale in a future-proof way in your organization. And that's super cool. And I'm very proud to have worked on this product suite together with my old colleagues from Xebia. Xebia is a well-known and also leading firm in digital transformation, especially technology transformation. Um, and it's really cool to see that we can tap into the experience and know-how that Xebia has, not just from the state of the art, but also from making their hands dirty and all the various cases they have accrued by helping large enterprises with especially these kind of challenges. So that's really cool. And with that being said, I'd like to hand the baton to you, Rajesh, to take us through the details of the value box that we built.
Thank you, Rick. Hello, I'm Rajesh. Before I dive into more details about the value box, I thought that it would be good to understand why we even decided to have a value box in the first place. And I can take my example. Also, you can take yours. As a SRE consultant, when I work with organizations, right, to elevate their SRE standards or reliability standards, it's basically a kind of a transformation journey on its own. And sometimes I need to process a lot of things at the same time, be it technology, be it people, be it culture, you name it. So during that pressure, one thing is very crucial when driving a transformation engagement, and that is buy-in. So if you have the proper right buy-in, you can deliver better. You can shape your transformation journey in a good way. Then what you need is right tool set at your disposal. If you have it, because people are intelligent, there are very smart people or engineers, they do exist in the organization, they can deliver, but sometimes they ask questions, is it the right way, can we have an example, so how can we do this better, do you have a checklist for me? So with all these questions, I really felt it's very important that to have something at my disposal which will help me to go through faster from planning to execution and provide value. And if I can do that fast, I will have the center stage. I can shape my transformation journey in that organization. So, this is basically the thought process why we decided to build this value box. And with that, uh, I want to take you to the next slide. As you can see, there are 5 guidance products, which is a mix of an assessment, guidance paper, workshops, a toolkit, and another workshop. But why do we also believe that each transformation journey is actually unique on its own? It has its own challenges, right? So that is why we kept it also a little bit flexible in nature so that it can be contextualized based on the organized state of the organization by the DASA facilitators. But these each of these components, they are independent, they are flexible. So if you go for a product, it will do the justice for which it is designed to. But if you go for the collective set, if you go for the value box, you can reach the goal what we want to deliver as the product suite of SRE Next Gen. So having said that, I would like to introduce the first one which we have, and that is the maturity assessment. Because based on our years of experience, we felt this is super important. Before you start investing in it, you realize where are the gaps, where are the pain points, what are the risks, what are the opportunity cost, and with all those things, how can we measure those things in the parameter of next gen. So keeping all those things in mind, we designed a maturity assessment which will provide actionable insights towards the targeted improvements. It is basically our goal is to align the SRE principles or SRE practices within the organization with the business objective so that we can have a good long-term strategy. So this is what the maturity assessment will do for you. If we go to the next product in our product in this value box, which is a toolkit, and as I was mentioning in my previous slide, that I always like to have something at my disposal, which is very comprehensive, trustworthy, tested, benchmark, templates, tools, checklist, which I can always fall back and make use or make the buying time fast. Like make use of the buying time, get it fast, make yourself in the center stage. So the idea of this thing or this product is basically to have a very smooth adoption so that you can deliver the value and you are actually shaping your transformation in a better way. So this is all about the next gen toolkit. The next one, what we have in our value box is about a cost optimization guidance paper. So because we truly believe that it is aligned with our sustainability pillar of what we think is super important, because it is important for the organizations to optimize the cost, right? For various reasons, it's well-known thing, but sometimes it is not manageable because reliability is something that demands cost. There is a lot of inherent going on which you need to understand. How can you optimize it better? How it will help you to reduce the cost. It will highlight certain strategies which you can employ to optimize the cost and minimize the waste. So that's why we thought of having a guidance paper in the first place. But so far, you have seen that we have talked about an assessment, a toolkit, a cost optimization guidance paper. All good, right? But then we thought about one thing that, okay, I have these things, all fine, all good. I do the training, everything is fine. But what about those questions? Because people will ask questions when they do the journey, right? There will be many unanswered questions which they will be looking for. Am I doing it correctly? Am I doing it as it demands? Am I going in the right direction? How can then we thought how can we answer those questions, right? So with that we decided to do a workshop which you will can see in the next slide. So when we do or when we work with customers, we get these things a lot many times that, okay, I do understand really SLI SLOs, but how can I add more context to it, right? Am I doing it properly? Am I is it doing well? I don't understand it. I'm not saying it. How can I have a bird eye view of the technology stack? What is my capacity outlook? So all these things need to be understand. There are a lot of questions they will have inherently, and this is the workshop where we try we design to go and provide hands-on guidance to develop the SLOs, manage the observability expectations so that they can make their journey smoother with confidence. Okay, enough of technology. So we discussed about assessments, everything, and this is also kind of technology. But there is another coin we did not discuss so far. And my friend Joseph, he asked me to, can we also do something about it? And that's super important because uh, when you do a transformation journey, right, you not only need the buy-in from people, you also need the focus from the leadership. Without that, it's very hard to go, because you have done an assessment, there is a assessment report, there are certain actionable insights which we need to pursue, but how will you pursue if the leadership does not, cannot make a decision, or hesitating, or doesn't have a proper view? With that, we designed our next workshop, which is about the governance and leadership workshop. This is to empower the leaders to adopt the next gen principles, because all they need to do is they need to understand what is going on, what is the undercurrent, where the things are going wrong, the engineering efforts versus the business goals, are they aligned? One thing I realized from my experience sometimes, that when you raise the demand from quality perspective, right, not only requesting a feature always, but also requesting the feature with certain demands on the quality. The feature should do this in this way, and you should be able to measure it, right, in a leadership perspective, right, as it is, it meeting the goal? So this is the workshop where we try to provide value, a top down approach for the leadership, which for quantifying the impact of the reliability initiative, so that they can ask, go back to the engineering team and ask for the right questions, they can demand the right output, so that they can make the right decisions. So this is a very important point which we felt to be included in the value box. So with that, that concludes my presentation about the value box, and I would like to invite Joseph to take you through the certification program. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. All right. So we've heard of the value box, and of course, that's just one part of what we're offering here. And the second being the certification program, which I also do have to note is a part of the program. It's a part of the program suite, but it also stands alone. It's also a standalone product that can still show you value despite being part of this larger ecosystem. So let's go to the slide and see what this is all about. And you're probably wondering what makes this program unique, right? This SRE is 2 decades old, but in the last decade, we've also seen countless programs, conferences, workshops within conferences, a lot of articles and a lot of people talking about SRE, you name it. But Next Gen, at least what we have built here, is a step ahead, especially with the focus on non-negotiable initiatives such as sustainability and, as mentioned before by my colleague and also Rick, a lot of social technical dynamics that are introduced by modern technology. So we have at least 3 key items, which are pretty much just a summary. There's a lot more that the scope covers, and we'll get to visit that. I just want to mention something about the next gen skills, specifically observability, which in this age of complex landscapes is essentially a really dire need to understand and satisfy the ever high user expectations. And additionally, sustainability initiatives such as Green SRE, which we will also mention, help us align to an environmental responsibility, which honestly should be an obligation for us all in tech. Let's move on to the next slide. And we also have to at least mention the expected profile for all the individuals, all the teams that are going to go through this program. The first being adapting SRE practices according to both social and technical dynamics of the organization. You will note we are mentioning the social and technical dynamics because ultimately it's the people and the processes who get to deliver any kind of value that is contextual to the particular organization you work with. Of course, AI is a topic that's major for us all, so that is also included in scope because ultimately there's a lot of people who are in denial about the role of AI, maybe Gen AI to be specific, but we've also seen a lot of value in some of the experiments that are being done, and some tools already offer AI-enabled features. So it's worth considering how that can make a difference in our workflows or in how we collaborate with each other. Implementing observability practices, of course, as I have mentioned, it's a very important need, because this is essentially how we get to understand what we are building and maybe make a difference in how we're doing it collaboratively, because at scale, there's probably not one person taking care of all these things. And the more the people, the stronger the bond that is needed to understand what's being built. Designing resilient and scalable systems, of course, is the model that everyone is carrying when trying to deliver software or delivering software to users today. And promoting sustainability is, of course, something we are really trying to spearhead, and making sure that everyone is at least aware of the ecosystem of tools and processes that today can actually exist and enable you to achieve those goals, display those numbers if you need to display. And one of my most important and maybe favorite topics is organizational culture and governance. Governance models are indeed mentioned in a lot of these modules, and something to reflect on is originally SRE, being coined from Google, had a lot of us, maybe even all of us in the ecosystem, trying to focus and replicate what was being done there. But over time, we've seen a lot of organizations coming up with thoughts, ideas, methodologies that they are applying to contextualize SRE to their own unique needs. And ultimately, that's the direction I feel most confident in taking with SRE. So there's a lot of contextualization and models that can be presented to make your life easier, which will also get to cover, at least in the realm or in the scope of SRE Next Gen. And finally, optimizing costs is important, because observability, for example, while it's necessary to pretty much know as much as you can in the scope of unknowns, it usually comes at a cost where you're either giving so much data while you're not really being able to reap enough value out of that, maybe because of the lack of proper tools, maybe because of the lack of technological awareness or capacity or capabilities, or you're probably paying for a tool that is so expensive and is taking a big part of your budget. So ideas around striking the balance between these two, because ultimately that ends up still being a problem today, but doesn't necessarily need to be as painful as it's been before. So of course, the definition of monitoring and observability, those are also factors that come into play when trying to make these decisions and align all these initiatives and translating them to business objectives. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about the program structure. And if you're coming into this program looking to learn how to prioritize reliability, after all, reliability is probably the most important feature for everyone. This is certainly for you. So early in the program, on module 1 and module 2, we're going to cover the core concepts and principles, which are pretty much still valid. In fact, the biggest pain in the SRE principles and the definitions that we've had for the last 2 decades is a lot of us are still stuck in defining or understanding what SRE actually means. So we really, as an ecosystem, need to move on from that point forward. So the most common zone in which a lot of us end up is a silo-based approach, where you have dedicated teams but like really struggle to communicate with each other. So you can imagine delivering something or delivering on the same goal is probably going to be even more challenging, or stagnation for anyone who actually tried to implement SRE and ended up not knowing how to define the next steps due to a lack of investment or priority. These are very common challenges that we will face as we evolve, as we move on to define Next Gen through the analysis of the changing IT landscape and impact leading to this definition, and all the skills that come as a result of understanding what we're trying to do here. Under module 3, we'll talk about enhanced observability, where also one of my most favorite topics. And in this case, we do get to define the difference, at least as an introduction, but we also dive into the semantics of standards around telemetry and how to make sure that everyone who needs access to this data actually gets that access and understands how to navigate any issues that are being faced by the system. So module 4 will help us understand strategies and execution methods for building resilient software. And module 5, as I did mention, AI is pretty much major, and we intend to understand how to leverage all the capabilities we can get today. So we do cover model reliability in production environments, common failure modes, and explore also unique challenges of monitoring models with varying requirements. Very common problem that is being faced, at least for those who we are able to work with, at least with AI. Module 6 will cover core design principles for scalable and reliable software architecture, and 7 will give you an introduction and integration of energy efficient operations. So this is pretty much around sustainability. We'll get to talk about carbon aware and time aware scheduling, and also optimizing resource usage, and maybe even sustainability focused SLO, because ultimately you're still trying to align with business objectives. So we still try to at least make sure we get close to that and make that as tangible as possible. Module 8, still a favorite of mine. We'll talk about SRE governance and dynamics, especially in team topologies. Team topologies is a concept that was coined not long ago, and ultimately it's still very effective. And here we look in the lens of team topologies to understand how to nurture a reliability mindset through organizational culture. So this pretty much will be a big defining point for governance models. So how you organize your SRE team, whether you want to think about consultancy or the comparison that we've previously been shown by Rick in regards to how to actually put this into practice. A lot of that is covered under this module. And module 9 will pretty much talk about toil reduction, reliability enablers such as incident management frameworks and self-healing strategies. And finally, module 10 will cover common cost drivers and cost optimization strategies. As we move on to the next slide. So this program is pretty much facilitated over physical or virtual classrooms over 2 days. And there is an exam for this, of course, which will be around 80 minutes for the entirety of the exam. There's 40 questions, and there's a criteria for learners and trainers separately, of course. For learners, you get 65% as the pass score, and trainers 75%. And this is also an AI proctored exam. And with that, I will bring it back to Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph. I have a few more slides to share with you before we go to the questions that you might have. I see that we already got some good questions. There's a lot to take in, I can imagine, because we have quite a vast, comprehensive set of knowledge captured in this product suite. A typical roadmap from an enterprise perspective, or how to go about implementing this or leveraging this by building the right reliability capabilities is, for example, this 3-step plan. There are, of course, all kinds of ways you can go about. There are all kinds of tailored transformation journeys that you can craft, but this is a recommended path that we propose from a DASA perspective, and it shows how you can leverage smartly both the certification program and the various guidance products that are captured in the value box. It makes sense to start with an assessment of your status quo to identify gaps, risks, but definitely also the opportunities for your organization to implement the right practices and principles. Then I would always advise people to quickly get up to speed, equip the right people, typical some pathfinders or forerunners in your organization, some first teams to do the right things. Giving them access to the certification program will help fill their backpacks, but also the workshops we have designed help you to get things going quickly. And if you have gained some understanding and some first proof points and experiences, and you will reflect on it, you can then embark on a more enterprise-wide initiative and scale your practices. So the transform stage basically does this. And again, you can find a nice mix between the guidance products that Rajesh talked about and the certification program, which is not designed just for an SRE, the engineer itself or a developer, but for many other stakeholders in your organization. It can be valuable to speak the same language and understand all the mechanisms around this concept. And this is just to show for you how you can use the DASA SRE Next Gen suite. On the next slide, I would like to summarize this all by promising to you what the DASA SRE Next Gen suite can provide you with. Next slide, please. Because I think it might be trivial or a no-brainer by now, but this is a key priority for you in your organizations to invest in the next 5 to 10 years. We know that technology advancements will only rise. We have AI already discussed, but also edge computing, quantum computing around the corner will make that SRE practices and capabilities will continue to evolve and need to meet the unique challenges of those innovations and what they provide. So here's a few benefits that you will gain if you empower your team by DASA SRE Next Gen. I will not go through all of them, but it's a nice combination of not just scaling your infrastructures in a sound way and properly automate them, but also improve the customer experience and improve the culture of resilience in your organization, which is ultimately what you need to stay ahead of the competition and to be ready for the new changes that are around the corner. So this is not just an operational upgrade. It's a strategic investment with measurable returns, I would say. So therefore, the time to act is now. And on the next slide, and that's the last slide, we have a few options listed here for you for how you can act. And we would love to work with you and help you future-proof your own reliability strategies and ensure that your organization can thrive in today's digital-first world. Early adopters of our products can also take nice advantage of exclusive discounts that we have to offer. We have 3 options that might be relevant and valuable to you. Option 1, it could well be that you yourself or your team members would like to take the SRE Next Gen certification program. We are offering a 50% discount for the first few runs of the certification program. If you're interested, don't hesitate. Definitely don't wait. Contact us for more details. And you can do that by going to the QR code listed here. It will bring you to a form and you can leave your contact information and we can get in touch with you. Another reason to fill in the same form would be that you would like to leverage, for example, our governance and leadership workshop as a starting point for hitting the ground running, basically, empowering your IT and transformation leaders around reliability capabilities. We also have a discount for that. And the third option, and some of you joining this call are already a renowned DASA partner, either a training or a transformation partner. If you, as an enterprise, would like to sign up as an enterprise member, or you would like to become a partner, maybe providing the training or the workshops or the assessments to your clients, leveraging the value box, you can also contact us and team up with us, and we'll explain how you can get access to all the materials, and we can discuss collaboration opportunities and next steps. And if you would like a little bit more deep dive and pilot the product, see if it is really working for you and if it fits your ambitions, it's also always possible to reach out to me or my colleagues so we can set up some time, schedule a call, and we will also happily pull in the experts like Joseph and Rajesh or others from CEB, our partner here, to discuss with you in that conversation. So those are all next actions and call to actions that you can go about. And with that, I'd like to give the baton back to Pragya, because I think we got quite a few questions we can maybe zoom into, right?
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Thanks, Rajesh and Joseph, for that awesome presentation and letting everyone know about the product suite and why we are doing SRE Next Gen. Rick, there is a very interesting question that I would want you to answer. The question is DASA prioritizing SRE over DevOps as an approach to streamline software delivery?
That's a great question. The short answer is no, but it's depending on your definition, of course. We see since 2009 that the DevOps as a concept is well known. In 2016, we tried to already explain from DAS's perspective what kind of elements you need to take into account, and we position DevOps as a quite holistic phrase and definition, but it depends on what your definition is. SRE in itself is more than 2 decades old. And some people argue that if this leader at Google at that time in 2003 would have joined the company 5, 6 years later, maybe he would have called that initiative just DevOps. And so there is definitely some overlap. I would have the opinion that they can be complementary. Typically, a good first step would be to embark on typical agile DevOps key concepts and go in that route. Employ a number of DevOps teams, learn what it means, train the right attitude and behavior, and thereby create the right culture. And then, as a next step, you can focus more on reliability concerns and aspects like we discussed today. So it is not prioritizing SRE, but we felt that in our total body of knowledge, helping organizations to reach a next level of maturity, it is very helpful to have guidance and detailed know-how on SRE in our portfolio as well. That's why we have a dedicated product suite on it, but it's definitely not, let's say, uh, bypassing or replacing other products in our suite. I would still recommend for companies who are not that far on their journey to consider starting with our DevOps Fundamentals program, for example.
Yep. Thanks. Now there's one more question from Stefan. He would like to hear a little bit more about sustainable SRE practices. Joseph or Rajesh, would you want to talk a little bit about why we decided on these sustainable SRE practices in within the certification program that we are doing, and a little summary of what we are planning to cover in it?
That's a good question. So I will take it. Joseph, is that okay? So sustainability, yes, it's not. There's a big commitments coming up. There's a regulations, but there are different approaches using which you can make yourself sustainable. Like you can make yourself sustainable, right? So we call it sustainability, but actually, the businesses, they always after sustainability. They always wanted to optimize cost, but the thing is that with the growing demand, growing load, some things go left out. And now with this commitment and regulations, this thing came like with more importance, right? So there are different kinds of approaches or questions we would like to answer. For example, 24/7 matching. Do you need to do that? Or how do you do that? Or how can you measure? What are the important SLOs which you can look after to measure your sustainable or how sustainable you are? Or let's say that you are implementing a feature or you are choosing something. What are the right technology or right choices you can make to towards a sustainable direction, which will end up not even to environmental commitment, lower carbon footprint, but also benefit the businesses, right? Because the more sustainable you are, the business will have the more margin to expand. So yeah, that will be my answer.
Thank you, Rajesh. Um, and there is one more question for you, Rajesh. What are the next gen capabilities that was mentioned in your first slide? These capabilities are business or personal capabilities?
Interesting question, but maybe a little bit more because I can take a recent example, right? So there was something I was working for a customer, and something was not stable. Fine. So there was an engineer working on. He did as a measure to fix that problem, to recover that problem, but one thing that they did not think about it, that they always need to remember that I have created a system which I need to do once again to make it reliable. And okay, I was in a discussion with business, so like that's very painful for them. So then we decided to make a self-healing system. So the business now comes into context that, oh yes, we need to do this because we don't even want to remember. We want the systems to get self-heal. And the personal capabilities comes in this place because the engineers who are expected to do that, right? Who need to put them inside the shoes to achieve this goal. So this is an example which is very recent. Like few days back, I had to solve with one of our customers. Yeah. So I just thought of giving you an example. Pragya.
Yeah, Joseph, there's one more there's a question that if you can answer. The question is DASA prioritize, sorry, I'm sorry. Is it mandatory to follow all modules or just a selection of those?
Thank you, Pragya and Ramona. This is a very good question, and uh, context is the most important part. And context will help you solve a lot of problems within SRE, especially when it comes to implementation. So your context can actually guide the value you get from this. Ultimately, I would say it's important to go through all the modules because especially the initial modules will give you a concrete idea about the kind of mindset we want to give you when exploring these modules and all these tactics that we share. But ultimately, the context of the organization, in that, like, if there are modules here that are not representative of initiatives already present in your organization, it's still value for you to understand because ultimately it will prepare you for any scale you might encounter as you build your product or as you grow your team. So I would say it's important to go through it ultimately because it's not that we've also organized it in such a way that like we are building it up. Of course, it does build up, but there are modules within there that will give you information that will make it so clear for other aspects that you will encounter. For example, the module on organizational culture and governance. While governance is still mentioned in a lot of these modules, it's covered in module 8. So skipping to module 8 does guarantee you'll skip a lot of value that you could have gotten. So ultimately, I'd say go through it. There's a lot of gems that you will pick up through that course. If you are experienced enough at, as an SRE or as a DevOps, and all these things are very familiar to you, I bet there's a lot of information that you may have not encountered yet that we explore in all these modules. So I would say go through all of them.
And I would just want to add to what Joseph said. If you want to gain the certification in SRE Next Gen from DASA, then I would certainly recommend going through all the modules or getting trained on all the modules so that you can clear the certification exam and get yourself certified. Well, I would say that we will take that. That was the last question that we have taken because of the time. We have overrun. If you have any other questions, please write to us at info@dasa.org, and we'll be answering all of them to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to hear back from all of you, and we are very, very excited to bring this product to the market. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.